Hey, this is Nick, the Mining Book Guy. It is the morning of Saturday, April 21st, 2018. You can see that this presentation is going to be on Mundoro Capital. That's MUN on the TSXV. Immediately, I want to say that this has become my largest position, and my priority is to try to convince you that this is one of the best deep value plays, basically trading anywhere in the junior space. But I have not been paid by the company. I've never taken a dime from anyone in the industry. 100% independent, bought all my shares in the market. I've never participated in a private placement because I'm not accredited. Any errors are mine and mine alone. But again, I'm very biased towards this company. I am trying to convince you this is a great time to buy, and there's even some urgency. But I'm also hoping that newbies or people who are just learning about this stuff get something out of this video as well, even if they have no specific interest in Mundoro. Now, with all that said, I had a few key points that I want to get through. Before I even get into those points, if you only take away one thing from this video, please take a look at the following few links, and you don't even have to listen to me ramble on later on. This is really timely because there's been some good stuff that's come out. Most importantly, the European Gold Forum in Zurich, Switzerland was just this past week. This was literally just posted yesterday. Great video with Teodechev, the CEO of Mundoro. I'm actually paused on a part about 4 minutes in. One of the key reasons I wanted to do this video was because of all of the timeline of catalysts coming out. So that's something I'm going to be getting more into, but it actually is covered very well in this video. So 2018 plan, definitely check this video out. There's a PowerPoint that goes with it, so you don't have any confusion. You can actually get that PowerPoint right at this link down here. There was recent news on Monday. The 2018 exploration program through JOGMEC was announced, and I'm not going to go into details here either. But this is really the main thing to be excited about over the next few months. My last Mundoro video was almost 2 years ago. Actually, I'm going to go to the 3-year chart, and it was actually right around here, and it was a complete coincidence because I was talking about the stock right before that I knew that Sprott Global, which happens to be my broker, was part of a financing. I didn't even really know the financing was taking place when I was buying the stock. So I've actually made some money trading this because it's come down even a little further from where I started buying back in August 2016. But to be 100% clear, it's almost as if nothing has happened with the company in 2 years, which I find incredible. So I'm trying to convince you that tons of exciting stuff has happened. I think it's one of the biggest value gaps for the micro juniors out there. It's as if nothing happened. And one of the main key points is that this rise here and fall was based on really exciting Borsco drill results, part of the JOGMEC JV, but the market has taken it like that was a miss or something, when in fact I am very confident it's the most exciting thing going on with the company. So in terms of the actual projects of the company, I want to hammer down that point as the number one thing. In my opinion, the number two thing is a new project they have in Bulgaria, and there's all these other projects too. So I'm going to go through those two, especially Borsco, very soon. Most important first note is that there was the raise in December of last year. It ended up being a total of about $2.3 million. That was at 13.5 cents Canadian, with half warrants at 20 cents. Now we go back and just look at this chart. Basically going back to 3 month or 1 year. This was all happening right about here. You can see these bars showing the volume. Something happened where people were selling like crazy. I actually asked Teo about it. I got confirmation it was not the institutions. This is where I was totally taken aback. Like, I need to buy into this stock because it was trading down at 10 cents, 9 cents, even 8.5 cents. So I bought a ton of these shares. And again, I'm trying to convince you it's still a great buy. and why I bought so many shares, which it wasn't planned, but that was a huge discount to that raise. So if there's one newbie's thing to take account of, I'm always looking for this because I can't participate in these private placements. If a raise happens at 13.5 cents and then the stock's trading down to 9 cents, it's a huge discount. It's a huge value to retail, even if I can't participate in the warrants. Just to get back to 13.5 cents, it has to go up 50%. So I didn't get all my shares at 9 cents. I think I got a ton of shares, between 9 and 10 cents, and it's still trading at 12 cents right now. It's bounced back a little bit. And this is level 2s right here. CEO.ca has great level 2 if you're willing to pay for it. Just a quick endorsement there. This is actually looking a little weird because there was a big bid down there. Okay, yeah, you can see 74,000 shares at 12, a bunch between 13 and 14. Main point is that I think this is still a short-term opportunity because this company was trading almost at cash. It was basically trading at 6.5 million Canadian. So it was trading about 2 million enterprise value. That would already be pretty good for early stage projects, but there's a lot going on here. So without understanding anything about all the other stuff, all the actual events and the projects, this looks cheap. In terms of the share structure, 69 million shares out. All of these warrants are at 20 cents, which is also good. Sometimes it could be a problem if so many warrants are so close to the current share price. It kind of caps that price, but that's not really the case here. So even fully diluted, 86 million shares out, we're still talking, 10 million Canadian or a little less fully diluted. But I don't even think the fully diluted really needs to be discussed. I mean, this is basically an $8 million company right here. And the other key point here is that the ownership, the share registry has changed and almost no one is talking about it. Now, I can understand why they don't mention the names here, but this is one of the 3 main key points I wanted to get through in this presentation. Who are some of these names and how important is this? Going forward, so Sprott's not even one of the names, but just to reiterate, Sprott happens to be my broker. I did learn about Mundoro through my broker. They weren't part of the recent placement, but they were part of the previous one 2 years ago. It is a big name. This is, Rick Rule's company, and I know there's a lot of retail here, but that's not even one of the names I wanted to discuss. This is one of the names. So Altius, which is very well respected in the industry. I appreciate that Altius is willing to share their junior equities portfolio even though they don't advertise it. And it makes sense. There's a lot of very small positions. But as an example of, one of these positions that's doing really well, Evrim has spiked a ton. So, Altius knows what they're doing. What I want to point out is that, yes, Mundoro's on here, but there's no royalty. It's under 10%. So I don't know what it is, maybe 5% or something. But there's not just Mundoro in Europe. There's Medgold, which is also in Serbia, a different type of play. There's Avrupa Minerals, which is primarily Portugal, but they have a play in Kosovo. And then there's Pan Global, which I hadn't even heard of, and that's, I believe, in Spain and Portugal. The point I'm trying to make is Altius is a very excellent, contrarian company that does things very differently, and most people have no idea they have an investment in Mundoro and all these other investments in Europe. So I think this is a very strong signal that there's a smart company out there that doesn't want to advertise it too much, but it's public information. This is right on the website. I'll have all the links will be below the YouTube video. And I also wanted to add, if you actually don't know anything about Altius, check out the interview from my friend Brian Lenny, who's at Lenny at CEO.ca. This was actually one of my favorite CEO.ca interviews, and it just gives you an idea of how contrarian and why Brian Dalton is so successful. There's even some neat pics of medals at the end. But I just wanted to highlight that either you know a lot about Altius and you respect them, or if you don't, make sure to check this. Again, link will be below this video. But beyond that, Adrian Day, whom I met for the first time at PDAC, he is also an investor, and he doesn't have to report it, so he doesn't show up in SADAR, but to kind of an interesting I think it's just a coincidence, Adrian is also invested in MedGold, just like Altius. So there is this kind of interesting connection with some of these, bigger names. Adrian's a portfolio or a private wealth manager invested in Serbia, and I'm convinced that Mundoro is the best value there. But even if you're not thinking Mundoro is necessarily the best value, there's interest happening in Serbia and Eastern Europe, and there's these bigger names getting involved. But the biggest name is on Sadar. If there's one thing you'd really have to dig to find this, this is one of those things I dug into, and I'm glad I found it with a little bit of help. December 29th, there's this little thing called Alternative Monthly Report. I mean, you wouldn't have any idea what that is, but you click on it and you go to this page, and this is Ruffer LLP, which is actually a really important, UK gold fund. I got confirmation at PDAC that these guys are very well respected, and they were part of this recent placement. Not only that, they are now, you could say, the cornerstone shareholder, or as close to it. I am not almost 100% sure that is what this London-based fund is. Now, they don't want to advertise it, but the information is here. It's you match up what you see on Mundoro's PowerPoint with the publicly disclosed information on Sadar, and you can be 99.9% sure that it's them, just based on all these numbers. If you want to know more about Ruffer, I actually found this nice little update. This is literally a Google search, and you can see the guy who manages it. I believe this matches up. So again, 99.9% sure that it's matched up. So if I'm wrong, I apologize. But this is a large fund. This is almost 700 million pounds. Almost like a billion US dollars. And you look at the names on here, and there's a lot of bigger names. My take of why this is so important is that they got this toehold in Mundoro. So while they are the largest shareholder in Mundoro, it's an absolute tiny, tiny teardrop in a bucket for their fund. But it implies that this is really going to help Mundoro with funding in the future. They're going to be a follow-on investor. That's why institutions are so important. And I get a little frustrated sometimes because Mundoro doesn't have as much of a retail following as others, and it's a little hard for me to convince retail. But hopefully you're seeing here, there's some serious bigger names involved with Mundoro, and it really, the tiny market cap, tiny enterprise value is not justified. And we're not even talking about the projects yet. So these are some really important links to immediately add credibility to Mundoro. There was one other link that I forgot. I'm gonna just show it real quick. It's not actually a link. So SETI, even though it's a little annoying to search on its own, CEO.ca has this nice feature. I just wanted to emphasize that even though you could complain, you could be like, oh, the insiders should have more ownership when you look through that. That is a bit of a weakness that I've mentioned before. It's immediately countered by, I think, very good capital allocation, especially the last few years, very effective drilling. But in this recent placement, Tio and two of the directors combined basically went out for 1 million shares at 13.5 cents. That's roughly 130,000 Canadian dollars. So you could say what you want about issues with insider ownership, but they just put in a big chunk of change in the company. So that's a clear positive as well. I just wanted to point that out. And these SETI buttons, there's it's a nice way to search for insider buying and selling at CEO.ca. Now back to this. I just don't have time to go through all this. I'm going to have more videos coming out. This is actually the first video of a Mundoro series, but what's not emphasized here is how important Borsko is. And so this is a little bit my opinion, but I am 100% convinced this Borsko drilling is by far the most important thing, not just within the JOGMEC JV projects, but within everything. This is the reason you should immediately buy. This is the reason that basically the market cap or the share price should be at least double what it is. I am very, very convinced about that. And within the PowerPoint, I can't go through all the details. I may have another video that really just focuses in on Borsko, but there's a couple points related to what Tio said in the video. I'm not going to go through that section of the video. Make sure though you watch about 11 minutes in where Tio talks about Borsko for a few minutes, and she makes a really important point that Cukaru Peki, has this very high sulfidation epithermal system, very high grade gold and copper in about a 250 to 300 meter area. And I want to connect this with how she also says that Mundoro did get lucky and could have drilled hole 10 first. And they didn't. They actually a got into mineralization on the first hole. That is this image. So if you look here, hole 10 didn't hit any of the alteration. Hole 6 was that first hole and then confirmed by hole 7. The market basically prices Mundoro as if this didn't happen, as if this doesn't matter. And that's absolutely ridiculous. This is where retail has no idea what's going on versus, the institutions versus large companies. I'm convinced the big companies know what's going on. And the key is that you can buy into the company right now as if this doesn't matter. I'm not a technical specialist, but the type of mineralization matches up very much with the Cukaru Peki discovery from Reservoir Minerals, which a lot of people are aware of. That's now Nevsun. And the only key difference is that Nevsun hit high grade, like very high grades. And a lot of people thought that, that was an amazing discovery hole and they built on it. But I think people's memories are kind of faulty or they just haven't looked into it. And the reason I say that is that there's a lot more that has gone on prior and immediately after the major discovery holes that are just so easily forgotten. This was a news release from 2013. I think this is a really important point on its own. Then I could have used other news releases, but I was digging in to Reservoir Minerals. So drill holes 1215, 1216, they were step out holes, a few hundred meters in different directions, and they basically hit very low grade mineralization. Now, unfortunately, there weren't any images. The way they used to come out with the news releases, they didn't include the images in the news releases, and Reservoir doesn't exist anymore. So that was a little unfortunate. But what I did was tie this in to a PowerPoint, which is still online from 2012. And so what you see here, I'll zoom in a little bit. Hopefully I can have some links below this YouTube. I believe that that drilling was here. I'm going to come back to this for another reason as well. So this is where the Cukaru Peki discovery took place. There was all this drilling here. Now these clearly shows the main discovery holes, but 15 and 16 are literally just a few hundred meters away and hit almost nothing. This is so important because these are blind discoveries, and in this case, over time, all the mineralization ended up being right around here, but it shows how you could just be a few hundred meters away and either entirely miss the alteration, or you could hit the alteration, but the mineralization would still be weak. And that's the stage that Mundoro is in right now. And the market gives it no credit. It's crazy because you see here, like 10 and 9, they missed, but they're not that far away at all. It's like it's actually just these little holes. Like these holes, I believe, are the ones that missed, but what it's open in this direction. So we literally could hit the jackpot on the next holes. I'm not saying that will happen, but we're at that stage, especially with a lot of the geophysical work happening, where it really could happen. It's super exciting. And see, Cukaru Peki's right here, the bore mine, it's in the right area. Like so the market basically has said this is worthless. This is going to fail. You don't have to pay up for it right now. Now, this should be minimum. This on its own, I'm 100% convinced that this should be worth at least a 10 million enterprise value, if not 20 million. I'm talking just this one project JV'd with Jogmec. And the Jogmec JV is very similar to the Reservoir JV the Freeport earn-in that they had with Reservoir at the time. I'm not going to go through all those details, but there's so many parallels. But Mundoro is not given credit because they haven't hit those higher grades yet. But even with the round 2 of drilling, instead of very, very low grade, this is not close to economic, but it's getting closer to 1 gram per ton and better just width of intersection. I mean, again, these results aren't going to come out tomorrow, but within the next few months, drilling will start and we could get there. This is a high impact drill play. This is a very serious target. So I can't emphasize that enough. And hey, I won't spend too much time on this, but there was one other reservoir note. I just wanted to point out, it's not like these things happen overnight. Some people think I truly believe they think that Reservoir put one hole in and they hit the jackpot. This 2008, there was drilling and, there was some interesting intersections, but I was looking into the history, and this was when it was Reservoir Capital. There were all sorts of problems with the company. I mean, it's great that it worked out. But, 2008 is a long time ago, a long time before 2012. And just to emphasize, when Reservoir was starting, they were, I believe, almost all that drilling back in 2008 was over here, and then they were doing some drilling up here, and they were getting some good results. But it wasn't until the blind discovery here. So these things take time. What Mundoro is doing surprisingly matches up really well with Cukaru Peki, especially in this area. So I've spent a little more time than I wanted to here, and I want to wrap up this video pretty soon. Padina, what's interesting is it's at the stage where Borsko was a year ago, but again, the market's like pricing it as if it's at the stage. There has not been any there's going to be a drill hole, and it might totally miss. And that's what could have happened with Borsko as well. But Borsko went from a 600-meter program to like a 6,000-meter program because it was so exciting. That could happen with Padina. I'm not expecting it. There's no reason to price it up. But that's something interesting that's happening. And Železnik, honestly, I consider this a bit of a weakness that I like the Železnik project, but I think people confuse it because they see these results. They see these lower grade, but still interesting near surface results right next to Majdanpek. But this is entirely different from Borsko. It has its own value. Maybe eventually there'll be like a toll milling agreement or some type of monetization. I'm hopeful for that, but it's going to take a little time to develop. On that point, though, I want to emphasize, I think this is important for everything, but it's another reason you really should be interested in Mundoro and other players, including Nevsun, in this area, because this news from March, China's Zijin Mining is interested in buying or doing a deal with the Bor mine, with the whole area, with the government, and it could be like a $300 or $330 million deal. And by June, hey, that's coming up soon. So this is an important news release. And then I found one other one that talked about all of that with the Chinese ambassador to Serbia. But then I hadn't realized the minister also pointed out that Russian and Canadian companies were interested in RTB Bor, and that, again, May or June at the latest. So this area is totally heating up. I'm going to have another video at some point talking about competitors, because I'm actually impressed that there are some competitors that are moving in, but I'm 100% convinced that Mundoro is the best prospect by far. 15 minutes in, if there was one other big takeaway, I was very impressed that Teo talked about the new project in the Panagurushta area. It's the Svoboda license and the Radka mine, kind of all those things mixed together, all those 15 minutes and 20 seconds in. That is one of the key parts of this video. Lots of new information there. And I think that on its own is worth more than the current enterprise value. Again, so much value hidden in here, but make sure to match up viewing this. Panagurushta is basically like the Timok of Bulgaria. It's starting to match up more. So there's going to be a lot more on this. A main reason I don't want to talk too much, though, is that this is more of a second half of the year thing. This is not the reason to buy right now, but this is a reason that if things don't work out so well in Serbia, or you get disappointed, this is another thing that backstops the value. And yeah, just if you start looking at this and listening to Teo and seeing 10 to 20% copper values, super exciting. And Mundoro had to compete to win this tender. That shows a lot about their ability in this part of the world. Going to wrap up. Let's see. Back to this capital structure page. This is an important page that if you weren't aware, I mean, this is a really cheap stock. And I was buying it mostly at 1 and 2 million. And honestly, I bought shares. I had traded the stock a little bit, but I had bought shares at 15, 17 cents. And I was really happy with that until I saw the raise come in and it got cheaper. But this is still very cheap. It's the best for a grassroots exploration. It's my favorite in the world right now. There are a few others that are they're catching up to it, but this is a good opportunity to at least get a smaller position. I'm emphasizing that I will be pounding the table on this because I know there are very few newsletters that really cover it, and I'm taking it on myself because I got a large position, so I kind of handcuff myself into the position. But that's how I roll. So I guess I'll just mention again. This is the weekend, and I'm going to be pushing this on Monday. But we'll see if these get taken out at all. I think buying anything between 12 and 15 cents is still a steal. I think that this stock should easily have an enterprise value of 20 million. If not more, but if we said it was 20 million and they had 4 or 5 million in cash, 25 million market cap, that's basically 3 times the value here. I mean, 25 cents, 30 cents. I wouldn't tell you to buy at 30 cents, but I would tell you even buying at 20 cents, you're getting good value, just not as good as under 15 cents. But this is something I think people excited about exploration, they need to start following now. They don't necessarily have to go out and buy this instant, but if you want to make sure that you get in under 15 cents, it can get illiquid. Even though there was liquidity here, it's mostly dried up. So you have an opportunity literally on this Monday or Tuesday to at least get a small position, if not make it a big, huge one like myself. I'll have more videos on this in the future. I hope you got at least a few things out of this, even though I rambled on a bit. But again, if you skip forward to this part of the video, make sure you hit those links right at the beginning. That is the best stuff. Really good factual information here, and get a really good idea of where the company's at and why I'm so excited about it. So this is Nick, the Mining Book Guy. Thanks for listening. I will have more for you soon. Bye.